Next week's presentation, Danny Medelis, Spring Mariachi Music. So mariachi is both culture and tradition. In this concept, Mariachi Real Ajijic will explore the diverse sounds of Mexico in their unique style. Although they've been performing together for only a couple of years, they've distinguished themselves from all others. Under the baton of Daniel Medelis, classically trained member of the renowned musical family by that name, the instrumentalists have extraordinary technique combined with Medelis' original arrangements. A perennial favorite here at Open Circle, Danny is the music director behind Música para Crecer, the San Juan Children's Orchestra and Chorus. He dedicates so much of his time to offer safe alternatives in music to the children of San Juan Cosala. Come and enjoy his mariachi band that is so well known throughout all of Jalisco and beyond. This is your opportunity to show your support this year for his year-round efforts and contributions to Lakeside. Not to be missed next week. Okay. Now it's time for this week's presentation. This is a presentation by Tran Dang, Leave No One Behind. And Tran and her associate Cesar will tell us about the Rhizome Center and their project to reunite deported loved ones with their family. Please give a nice, warm, safely distant welcome to Tran.
Well, I want to thank all of you, and to thank Steve to Steve and the Lake Chapala Society for having us here today. I also want to thank Margaret, who I first reached out to back in March 2020, and we had a conversation about the possibility of coming to the lake and to address all of you. And so we're finally here over a year later. I also want to thank all of you for purposely showing up today for this important conversation. I think that as Americans living in Mexico, it's critical that we are conscientious and that we are responding to the ways in which our country's policies impact and harm the people of this region. So thank you so much for being here. I'm an attorney and I'm originally from Houston. I moved to Mexico 5 years ago. And have been in Guadalajara for the last 3 years. I always felt that Guadalajara and Jalisco, was an easy place to be. Like, I felt comfortable here. It's easy to adapt. There are a lot of people who speak English. If you ask people, it turns out that they have lived in the United States at some point. I feel that people are very at ease with me as an American. And as it turns out, Jalisco and this region of the country have traditionally been a major sending state of migrant workers to the United States. The people from the Occidental and Bajío have for decades gone north to look for work opportunities. As it became more difficult to travel back and forth, Jaliscienses settled in the United States and made the decision to stay there. They started their families, they got married, and they have contributed significantly to U.S. society and industries. Because so many Jaliscienses now live in the United States, we also see many Jaliscienses impacted by deportation. The same people that we hear about in the news, the childhood arrivals, the DACA recipients, veterans, ordinary people who've been deported and separated from their families are the same people who we see on the streets every day. If you look at the number of people who have been deported each year, it's staggering. In the last 10 years alone, the United States has deported on average over 200,000 people per year. And in the last 3 administrations, more people have been deported than were deported in the 100 years prior. The United States has historically deported more Mexicans than any other nationality. Whether deported from the border or the interior, Mexicans have historically been the nationality most impacted by deportations. Because our immigration policies don't prioritize family unity, or people who have strong ties to the United States, and don't protect Americans who have undocumented family members, Mexico is now home to more spouses, parents, and children of U.S. citizens than any other country in the world. We also see a significant number of Americans who've been forced to leave the United States to keep their families intact. Can you hear the mosquito? Mexico is now kind of home to more than 600,000 U.S. children who've been forced to leave the United States and build a life here. These children are losing their language abilities and their cultural ties to the United States, which are important factors for their success later in life. They and thousands of U.S. spouses who gave up careers, businesses, their communities, their immediate family in the United States to be here with their deported loved ones. Their lives are very similar to those who are undocumented in the United States. They have trouble seeking identification documents and becoming legal in Mexico. Many work kind of under the table and have to go back to the United States at least once a year to be able to support their family's expenses. We also have in Mexico today over 200 deported U.S. veterans who've been dishonorably banished after their service. Many live in Tijuana. There are many as well who are in Jalisco, in the Colima and Guanajuato area. Some are combat veterans who were kicked out of the country because of drug-related crimes that were related to traumas that they experienced in the military. I actually had a very powerful experience when I visited a support center for deported veterans in Tijuana, where I met a combat veteran who had served in the Vietnam War. And as a U.S. citizen, I felt ashamed that we were meeting each other here in Mexico. Rather than honor the people who have suffered traumas in the name of the United States, the U.S. regularly deports and discards immigrant veterans without a second thought. After their removal, it's very difficult for Mexicans to be able to return to the United States, even for a day. The United States grants very few humanitarian visas for Mexicans who are often denied dignity in mourning and don't have the ability to return to the United States, even to say goodbye to loved ones. I founded the Rhizome Center for Migrants in 2018 to bring visibility to this issue and to provide resources where resources did not previously exist. Today, the Rhizome Center for Migrants is still one of the only organizations in this region and in the country supporting and defending the rights of those whose deportations could not be stopped. Our legal clinic provides legal support to Mexicans who still have claims and rights in the United States. We help our clients apply for naturalization if they qualify. We help people to understand when and if they can return to the United States. We help parents draft guardianship agreements for their children who remain in the United States. We also help people to apply for benefits that they've earned as laborers and as veterans. So we work with people on their veterans benefits, their Social Security, and even health benefits for 9/11 workers. As the organization has grown, we've been able to provide humanitarian relief in addition to legal aid. So some of our clients have tremendous difficulty adjusting and surviving in a country they don't understand. We provide food aid packages to help people meet their basic needs during these difficult times. Through our Adopt a Shelter program, we provide monthly food and household supplies, medical supplies to partner shelters to ensure that those who are being deported today during the pandemic have their basic necessities met and have a safe place where they can rebuild their lives. As a binational organization, we work not only here in Mexico to improve the lives of people who can't return, but we also work in the United States to advocate for the rights of people to be able to return. We work to increase institutional resources here, to increase public awareness about the conditions of the deported. In January, after President Biden took office, he opened the door to the possibility of bringing back the deported, who were deported during the previous administration. His immigration proposal extends legalization to some deported people who had typically been excluded from immigration reform efforts in the past. Suddenly, there seems to be a possible pathway where if people are able to legalize and return to the United States, we're talking about a significant number of people who can benefit. Our Right to Return campaign to bring back deported loved ones grew out of a need to speak directly to the president's offer to ensure that no barriers exist that would prevent families from reuniting. In response to the president's proposal, the Rhizome Center led a binational effort to ensure that the president would address the reunification of all mixed status families, not just those who had experienced deportation under President Trump, and to acknowledge their circumstances as a key element of the administration's greater goal of unifying families. Our campaign, which originates out of Guadalajara and out of this region of the country, is a binational effort in which we are working with other deportee organizations to present proposals to the White House and legislators that would include family unity for all. Our open letter was ultimately supported and signed by over 70 organizations across the border, including all deportee-led organizations in Mexico and also major human rights organizations, including Human Rights Watch and Human Rights First. This was the first time that the deported had an opportunity to speak directly to legislators about policies that have the ability to impact their lives. If incorporated, these policies and these proposals would make it easier for people to return to the United States for humanitarian purposes and also for family reunification. It would allow minor children to be able to petition for their parents. Consular officers would have to consider temporary family reunification as a positive discretionary factor when issuing non-immigrant visas or tourist visas. In our open letter, we also ask for discretionary relief for people who have been criminalized or who have had contact with the criminal legal system. In addition, we are asking for the creation of waivers for automatic bars for people who have, for example, multiple illegal entries, so people who've been criminalized for attempting to return to their families. For many people, the best solution is to be able to return home. We're continuing to address and push for the need to return through our live chat series, which we launched last week, and so I left flyers on the table. That includes kind of our full calendar and also kind of summary of each of the live chats. This is our Road to Return series, which brings together experts, advocates, and affected individuals on both sides of the border to discuss the long-term consequences of deportation from a policy perspective. Deportations don't happen because people are bad. They primarily happen because people have been targeted, purposefully criminalized, punished in an unfair system, and deliberately excluded. The purpose of our Road to Return live chats is to bring together people on both sides of the border to discuss an issue that impacts the people of this region, and to provide space where the deported and their advocates can provide solutions to lawmakers and to decision makers of this region. I'd like to, I asked Cesar to join me today. Cesar is also with the Rhizome Center. He grew up in California and was an undocumented organizer and advocate for the immigrant community. He's been here since 2018, and I'd like for him to talk about his personal experience with return, why he made the decision to return to advocacy now, and what he hopes for the community.
Good morning. Oh, it's a little loud, huh? Sorry about that. Good morning. My name is Cesar Miguel. As Tran mentioned, I was an undocumented organizer in Southern California for 8 years. My story with migration begins in 1994. My mother returned from working in California to take me to reunite with my father. We took an airplane from Guadalajara to Tijuana, and we crossed the border on foot. I was 4 years old. I thought I was going to Disneyland because it's the only way my mother could get me to stop crying on the plane. So I was wearing a Mickey Mouse beanie when I crossed. We did not go to Disneyland. We went to the city of Lancaster in northern LA County, about an hour north of Los Angeles. And I lived there for 25 years. But I knew when we were crossing through the drain canals in Tijuana that I would return to Guadalajara. I got involved in immigrant rights organizing because I saw that people in my community were hurting. I saw the devastation that happens when a breadwinner is removed from that family, and the mother has to make the decision whether or not you can support her children or whether to uproot them from a country that many times they fled fearing for their lives. I saw the damage in the community where a business owner was deported and his employees lost that connection. Together with other immigrant youth, we were only 22, 23 at the time. Some of us were still teenagers. We changed laws in California. We stopped deportations. We managed to get people out of detention and back to the communities and the families where they belonged. But we lost many more than we won. After living undocumented for 25 years, I got tired. I was tired of waiting for Congress to pass a bill. I was tired of waiting for the political arithmetic to be perfect so that I could no longer have that worry. So my parents wouldn't have that worry. So I would not worry whether or not my friends would be deported and gone the next day. I had DACA, I went to UCLA. I thought I would be an art historian, and instead I turned into an advocate. I returned to Guadalajara in 2018, and I immediately saw the impacts of deportation. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I came with a little bit of savings. Didn't have to work right away, but I'm an incredibly impatient, energetic person. I need to work. I get a job at a call center. In the call center, I meet Victor. Victor and I, through conversation, realized we were actually middle school classmates. We lived 2 blocks apart from each other in the city of Lancaster. But while I was struggling to make it through UCLA and pay for tuition and pay for parking, which is probably more expensive than tuition now in LA, Victor had been deported. Victor and I weren't very different. We lived in the same community, with the same gangs, with the same poverty. The only difference is that I was lucky that I had a mother who kept me on a very short leash. Victor didn't have that support. And because he got involved in that culture, he was deported for issues that began when he was 13. Victor and I shared conversations about life in Lancaster, about friends that we had in common in middle school who are now also deported, some in jail, some who have died. And the only difference between Victor and I was luck. He has children in the US that he has not seen since they were born. I remember hearing Victor speak to customers in American companies, helping them resolve their issues on the phone. And I could hear him laugh when he spoke to people because of his perfectly unaccented English. They thought they were talking to someone in the States. And I remember seeing many people like Victor on their smoke breaks or their lunch breaks, tears well up in their eyes. Because they had no right, no ability to return. People think of a migration issue as something that starts at the border. I frequently tell people that I brought the border with me. I put the border in Guadalajara because I can't return. I have to wait minimum 10 years for the chance to go back. And the only thing I did was turn 18 at a Chili's in the city of Palmdale. Our immigration laws in the United States historically have been capricious. They have not met the needs of the country or the communities that they're built to govern. This campaign, the right to return, is about establishing a very basic right. The right to move. the right to exist as a body, as a person in space, the right to have a family and to be with that family, the right to decide where to live, when to move, and the right to thrive. I've met dozens of people throughout Mexico through the work with the Rhizome Center whose lives are in a constant limbo. They are full citizens in the country where they were born, but they're still living like they were undocumented. Their lives are still governed by a border fence in the desert and the long shadow that has cast over their entire life, and now their children's lives. In the cases of people who have difficulty adjusting because they left when they were children, because they left decades ago, I see the pain of separation. I see the need to resolve this. That is what motivates me to do the work. I've also seen, over my time here in Guadalajara, a change. I left the United States very angry. I said I would never get involved in politics again. I had seen too many people be hurt. I had seen too many people be removed. And I saw that our political system isn't always the most adequately equipped to solve that or prevent that. But then I met Victor in the call center, and I met other people like Victor. And it shocked me that after decades of sending hundreds of thousands of people to the United States, Jalisco didn't have the infrastructure, our politicians and public officials didn't have the knowledge, and they did not prioritize people who had been deported here in Jalisco and Guadalajara. Coincidence led me to find the Rhizome Center, and I decided to come back to advocacy because now is the moment. We have seen a generational shift in the way we talk and think about migrants and refugees across the world. As Tran mentioned, President Biden in his speech opened the door, cracked it just a little bit. But when you open a door even just a little bit, hope sneaks through and that door has to open wider. It's not about saving the best of us. It's not about recognizing how special and amazing our laureates are, right? How hardworking migrants are. It's about recognizing that even flawed human beings have a right to their families, have a right to their communities. When I returned to Guadalajara, I thought I was returning home, back to the grandparents that I had not seen, who had raised me when my parents were forced to go to the US and leave me here. I discovered that home isn't a place. Home is a project that you build. Home is a commitment to each other. I am committed to doing this work so that people can build home. They can make home where they need to, not simply where life forces them to go. Many people think of migration as a choice. For most of us, it isn't. But in moments of crisis, there's moments of great genius. And I think of this talk this morning as one of these moments that for me shows that change is possible, that people are good, and that we can pave a road home for people wherever that may be. And I know that when we talk about policy, when we talk about politics, it can seem polarizing. But I think everyone knows what it's like to look for home. I think everyone knows what it's like to miss family, to miss community. And I hope that this campaign will see you along with us on the road to return, wherever that may be for you and for all of us along that road. Thank you.